Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. And today, Tanika Ray is joining me for what I'm sure will be a fun, informative conversation with the American cinema editors. We've assembled a great crew of very talented creatives who operate in this space, and we look forward to sharing with you their the magic behind what they do as editors. Editors are probably one of the most overlooked, areas of the production experience, Tanika. I mean, in fact, without an editor, you don't really have anything.
Agreed. I've always said that an editor really is a second pass at directing and have a lot of control when it comes to the final cut. That has always been my impression as not only an audience member and a fan, but as somebody who has been in production for over 20 years. Do you guys see it that way as well?
I should have a t-shirt that says, because what I always say is I'll fix it in post.
Right.
So there should be a t-shirt that I wear all the time. There's a lot of things, a lot of times where it can be fixed in post, but you don't have the resources to reshoot and they still end up making it work.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is nothing without.
I've seen miracles happen, that's for sure.
Me too.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I rely a lot on editors that are problem solvers, and Heidi especially is one of those, and where Judy has said, we can't reshoot and the network is asking for something specific, and Heidi's made that work for me a lot.
Wow. Heidi, what is your secret to that?
Well, editing is first and foremost storytelling. And I think you have to have a real story bone in a sense. And I think also working in unscripted helped me a lot with that in particular, because a lot of times you set out to tell a story and then at the end you have what you have and it's like, God, what story can I tell? And it's a different way of thinking entirely. It's not, you're not just married to the script and what the director shot and just say, okay, what do I wish I had? How can I get it? I really wish I had a monitor shot here. Hey, there's one in that other scene. If I freeze frame it,
let's sneak it over.
Plug it in there. I can make that shot, you know. And we do a lot of compositing and resizing and creating close-ups, and that's changed a lot since 4K and 2K because the resolution's good enough that you can take a oneer that should never have been a oneer and grab your close-ups or your two-shot and make it feel.
But you know what, Heidi, that's a great lead-in. I mean, talk about your process. I mean, how does it work? Do you sit down with the director, the showrunner at the top of things and discuss the vision and offer your suggestions for the elements that you're going to need to do your job effectively? I mean, how does that go?
At the front, really, I have more contact with the director. And they're running and gunning. The schedules have gotten so brutally short. I know a lot of things they would have gotten had they had the time. And there's a lot of compromises they have to make along the way. And they look to me to sort of see if I can make that work. If things didn't kind of fell down for whatever reason, they ran out of time or something. So I get first crack at it. And, you know, showrunners and Shayna are a resource too. If I say, hey, I'm not feeling that the time or that I get a sense of what time this is. Can I get some stock footage to help us with kind of being in that time period?
Thank God for stock footage, right?
Yeah, especially for period stuff, you know, and it's expensive though. And there's a lot of money that has to be, you know, you don't want to sell them on something that just is not doable or affordable or things like that. So there's that with Shayna too. It's like, what stock house can I use and what can I do? I don't want to go down this road if we can't, you know. And then also there's effects budget, things when I start talking about compositing shots and blending them. And, sometimes I have a scene with 2 people and take 1, he's great, and take 2, she's great. And I do a split screen.
Mhm.
Effect, someone's gotta, clean up at the end, and it costs too. But first crack, I try to make it the best I think it can be. And, but I'm supposed to serve the director's vision in the first cut as much as I can.
So it's not really a collabo for most of these circumstances. It's really the director, but you can kind of sneak a little bit of your narrative in there from time to time, right?
Yes. Yeah, most definitely.
It's interesting because I know that I'm supposed to watch the director's cut, but I usually watch the editor's cut first.
Mm.
And then I compare the two. Especially is a little problematic on our shows because we crossboard. So we're shooting 2 episodes over a period of time. We're not doing one at a time. So we crossboard.
Woo.
And it makes it very complicated and difficult. And I want to honor the director, but I go to the editor's cut first. I always do.
That makes sense.
And then, there's a lot of voices after that. So we all pack into their bay to watch a cut. Then everybody has an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes the Greek chorus. And usually because I'm present, I can't text someone else at the same time with people watching me going, can you believe that note? So usually Shayna got to the point where she stopped looking at me because I'll give her a look. She won't look at me at all. She's like, no. No.
He knows how to play that game, right? It is difficult, especially with how short the shooting schedules are these days. So there's a lot of pre-production that needs to happen more so than ever before. Does that add a lot more stress to you?
Well, it's insane.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is on other shows, you're shooting while you're doing post. This is so you can fix things if you don't have it. Post can call you and say, we don't have it.
Yeah.
And then you can get it, but not this time. If you wrap and then you do post, you have no recourse. I have never looked at something in post and didn't think we could reshoot this and make it better. Never.
I bet.
And I honestly wish we could all be together.
Yeah.
So that it's writers, production, and post together. Because we can't function without each other, or you'll end up in post going, what do we do?
It seems like things are changing. Like I keep thinking of Tyler Perry in this moment because he is sort of changing the way TV and content is made. Do you like that change, that shooting schedules are shorter, that there are fewer people, that they're all on the same campus together? Does that sort of help the process, or do you think it's more challenging?
Who do you want to answer that?
What did you say?
Being together is better, but shorter time periods is worse. You wind up having to fix a lot more in post than you would have given the time to production.
Yeah.
So
a lot of times too, the director will call post if he's worried about something he shot that he ran out of time, and saying, is that going to work? And then he's got in the back of his mind as if he's got time later, maybe he can find a fix or do something. And if I see something really obvious that is missing, I will call the director before production's over. Hopefully that they haven't struck that set. Hopefully they still have that prop,
Yeah.
So
I mean, post is seeing, footage, and they can call while we're in production if it's at the same time, which it should be, to say, this looks too dark. when we get to color correction, we're gonna have to blow it out. You need to adjust. So that's, I think, why it's needed, because I'm not seeing it on the day. Maybe the DP isn't even seeing it on the day, and he has the most calibrated equipment. Sometimes our screens aren't that great.
Who's your saving grace on set before they change location? Because that is when it really all goes to hell. If they've changed location and you don't have everything you need, then it's really problematic. Who is that one key person on set that you can call to make sure the continuity, I guess it's the production, what do you call that?
Script supervisor.
Yes, thank you. Is that your go-to person to make sure we've got every single shot checked off that list and to save everybody's butt?
There is no one person. There's the script supervisor. There's also the writer producer on set. There's also the director. There's also the DP who says, we didn't get it, or it was out of focus, or like you have several redundancies and still we miss it.
Dang. And then what do? You
fix it in post.
We fix it in post.
Actually did that for a couple of shots this season where Judy was like, I didn't see it. We should have gotten that shot.
You guys are working magic, that's for sure. It's funny because I keep thinking also, I was at Buna Murray, which was obviously forefront. They were way back at the beginning of reality shows. And on the wall in like gold letters, they had, I don't really like her resting bitch face. Can we fix it in post? I was like, I mean, I'm talking in the lobby. That is what it said on the wall. And it's kind of brilliant. But the amount of magic that you guys have to produce every single show is bananas. So I think what would be really good is to say, I know what a brilliant piece of editing is. For me, it was this movie called Children of Men at the end. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but I watched it over and over. I'm like, that is the most, even when there was a mistake where blood splattered on the camera lens, it was genius. I would love to hear what you think is the most brilliant outside of your work, or it could be your work, that you think is the most brilliant display of editing that everybody can learn from.
Ooh.
I can tell you this much. I remember Children of Men is a great example, because I remember being in post when all of the editors were talking about it.
I get goosebumps.
And because everybody's saying that's a oneer. No, it isn't. There's a cut in there.
Was there a cut? I don't think so.
There's a cut. There's one cut, but you have to be an editor to actually point it out, because I missed it. I was like, what are you talking about? That was a oneer. So that's a pretty great example about what happens in post. Like,
they still made it look seamless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you other ladies?
I don't know that I have a favorite.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different skills. Like, I appreciate a story. I know a lot of times we don't know what happened in post. Mm-hmm. You're like, was this originally played linearly in real time? A lot of times it wasn't. And that to me is brilliant editing. Knowing when to reveal certain information, like that extra look when someone gives and you know something's up, but not doing it too soon. Not letting them cry right up front. Do what everyone else does, try and hold it back. And when it goes, it means something. So there's so many different little things that I think make it work. There's so many movies that do each of those things brilliantly. I don't know that I could pick a favorite.
That's fair. They say cops can't watch cop shows. They say, it's like, it's just too close. And you have the eye where everything, you're like, you can see it all. You can see it all, right?
Right.
What about you, Shayna?
The things that really stick out to me are when I can see issues. And I was watching Miracle on 34th Street looking at a camera shadow.
Oh, that's bad. Or like a boom.
But
Oh,
it's
a
like,
boom
you
and
know,
a
it's a
shot.
black and white movie. It's a black and white. You're just looking at the courthouse where the big column is. You can just see the camera shadow following.
That movie's ruined now for me. It's ruined.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
my sister usually tells me to shut up when I'm watching movies with her.
It makes it hard, doesn't it? Or that the wig is tilted, or people's makeup or outfit isn't the same. Like that stuff is mind-boggling, but you got to do what you got to do. You fix it in post, right?
Well, and a lot of times you can't
in the
fix a
story.
con-
Oh,
well,
sorry.
I was thinking with continuity, we choke down some mistakes. Sometimes it isn't worth the price to fix it.
Right.
So you're sitting there, the performance is really good, but when the car drives by, I think I saw a camera guy. Reflection in the mirror, in the glass, or, you know, so you can't always be a slave to it. It drives me bonkers. And I'm like, most people won't catch it. And is it worth going to the other take where the performance isn't as good? You have to kind of weigh it. So.
And then I say, Heidi, are you sure that other take looked really good?
I'm like, Shayna's gonna fix that. I'm sure of it. Fix it post.
They say kill your babies. It's hard to know like which baby is the most valuable. I mean, it's an awful analogy, but they say that in television all the time. But it's cutting like little bits here and there and trying to figure out how can we get the most of what we want, right? And we know we're going to lose a little bit, but get the maximum that we can. And just kind of keep your fingers crossed afterwards, right?
Yes. And also when a lot, for television, you're locked into a length. That happens a lot too. We literally kill scenes that we like. Try and take trims, but if you take tiny trims everywhere and you wreck the pacing of that particular scene, you don't really want to do that either. So you can make tiny little compromises, but if you've got to lose a big chunk of time, you're like, something big has to go. Yeah, I've left a lot of really good scenes on the floor just to make time. And you're like,
I'm sure the actors love you for that. They don't have a say, right? That's the one. Those are the people on set that have no say as far as what the editing is. Everybody else gets a little bit of a moment.
Yeah, but they make you pay for it on the day in
Do they?
production. About not having a say. They will hold up a scene. They will tank a scene if
For
they
real?
disagree with you about the way it should be played. And oh yeah, I mean,
That
but
happens?
sure,
Wow.
but you have to understand. It's like, those are people who are dressed. Their makeup was put on their face.
Mm-hmm.
They're told where to stand.
Mm-hmm.
They're told what to say in a script.
Been there, done that.
And so feeling a little powerless, sometimes, you know, you have moments, meltdown moments. And I get it, because their process is to become that character. So that's another subverting of self.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I always have a lot of patience for it when it happens, because we don't have time anymore. And it can cost you in hot costs, which is real money.
Right.
But I mean, no, but once they see it and they have to do ADR again in post, sometimes they, you know, they make their feelings felt, you know, when they're doing ADR. Am I right, ladies?
You guys listening to all that we say in ADR? Oh.
I'm usually not there for ADR. I was like, no, thank you.
On purpose, right? I feel you.
yeah.
ADR is not our most favorite time, though.
There are some actors that love it and they're very good at it. And there are some actors that are very good at it and still hate it.
Yeah, they feel like they can't make it as good because they're not in that moment opposite that actor. And it's just like, just give it a shot. But they really don't want you to use it. And sometimes they'll tank it too.
Actors, we're having a moment. No, it's funny because editors usually don't make the news, but an editor has made the news lately, ladies. It was an editor on a show called Vanderpump Rules. that says she didn't like one of the stars, so she made her look bad purposely in editing. Does that happen a lot?
Love it.
Did you not hear this story?
No.
No, I missed
It was
that.
on record. She went on a radio show and said it. And then the girl was like, wait, hold up. But she does look really bad on the show.
Oh,
So they
no.
have since, and it was a female editor. So they have since fired that editor. But I had never thought about that before. Is that
Hey,
prevalent?
now.
Spill the beans, ladies.
Ah,
No, not me.
That's never happened on a show I've been on, but I believe because, you know, we're guided by our showrunner and, you know, so we're trying to tell the story that Judy has in mind and not to, you're going to put your own flavor on it, certainly, but I think Judy would notice if we sort of tended to kill a character that she loved.
Yeah. It also is the difference between a reality show and a scripted show, right?
well,
Right.
you have to service the characters, and so even if I hated an actor, I'm not gonna tank the show
Right.
because of my personal feelings towards an actor when it's about the character, not the actor.
Yeah,
Right,
That's shooting yourself in the head.
agreed.
right.
Got some
So
big
you don't do that. Like that doesn't work in any way, shape, or form. You want the audience to feel something. So there's going to be moments where you're going to look at the character and go, why did you do that? Or you're going to look at the character and go, yay. Like, that's better because you're not going to just love somebody all the time
Mhm.
if the character is going to have any depth. But to deliberately make a character look bad, I mean, I guess you can do it in reality since she confessed to it. I don't know why she did that. She kind of shot herself in the head because
Very proud
when
of it
she
too.
goes after this, they're going to be like, you're going to make me look bad.
Yeah,
Who would hire her now?
you know.
She must have really disliked.
Not, I've worked on shows where we've had to make the actor look a lot better than
Better. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, there was an actor who's really, you know, basically a good actor way back when, but was struggling on this one show, and they cut him so well because he had trouble putting two lines together. They cut him so well that my relatives are calling me going, oh, that guy, he was so mean. He was like great. I loved hating him. And I was like, oh, good, because he was
Yeah.
not very good in the
I mean, you know, for all of us behind this, I mean, I interview a lot of celebrities like, oh, she's amazing. And you're like, she's having a meltdown and she's on drugs. So you don't want to know, but you kind of want to keep the illusion going for people,
Yes.
right? To a certain degree.
Yeah, well, it serves the story, right? So
Yeah.
somebody
Yes.
is bad. We take dialogue out sometimes if it's bad and they look like they're bad acting, then it doesn't help
Flip it.
anybody.
Yeah, cut it.
Take it out.
Yeah, I was a big one for, I'm cutting that.
Yeah.
Even on the day when it happened, I looked at it, and if an actor is intractable and will not adjust, I started getting into the habit of saying it out loud. So maybe I shouldn't do that. Like, I'm cutting this.
You know, it's real. She's like, I'm not just feeling it. I got to say it out loud.
Right? I should stop doing that, saying it out loud. Like,
Girl, be you.
well, no, because it does tend to cause problems.
Your truth.
Because they get sensitive.
Yes.
Like, and so I can't have that. I need equilibrium on the day. So I'm going to stop saying, oh, I'm cutting this.
I know, because I'm sure there's places you go to train for editing, but what makes an excellent editor? It's got to be more than just knowing how to work the Pro Tools. What other skills do you think is required to be excellent at your job?
Well, I watch a lot of movies and a lot of TV actually. That helps because there are trends. I mean, you look at an older film and you're like, God, that thing drags. I used to love that movie. What happened? The people have gotten a little ADD and they want things to move quicker and quicker. So I think it's important to see the trend in that sense. You still honor what's happening in the scene, but what I thought was a quick scene a decade ago ain't. Right.
Can you give us examples? Because I watch a lot also, but I'd love to kind of see where your mind is as far as examples.
Well, a more broad example is just because of reality, jump cutting was not a thing, and it happens all the time. Audiences are used to it. It doesn't bother them the same way it would have.
We don't need like a nice flow into it. We just
yeah, that whole thing. Hard cuts. There's a lot more of that. I'm trying to think of an example, but
anybody else think of an example? I know, y'all are in.
I know, seriously.
Well, I'm gonna ask.
I like old film noir because
okay,
I think it is an example. Like they had some hard cuts and they did some things, like true film noir, like in the Universal Library, only because they were, I guess, shooting on a budget and they had to be quick about it. And the dialogue had to be a little bit faster. Some of it's like frankly ridiculous now when you look at it, some of it, but some of it's kind of good. And I mean, but I watch a lot of black and white movies.
Is that your favorite?
Well, I don't know if it's my favorite. I feel it more. It's like I don't know why. I think like watching things and finding mistakes, that's a problem for me because I can watch something and know where the story's going, so it's ruined for me anyway. So it's like, just I don't eat the sausage because I made it.
Right.
And that's a little bit of a problem because you start to be able to not enjoy things. Like other people are like, wasn't it great? And I was like, yeah, sure.
I can think of one show, actually, I was thinking about a comparison that might be easier to digest is ER compared to Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, that's a good one because it was a great show. I love ER. It still holds up, but it is slower. And in a Shonda show, there's no breaths. If no one's talking, it's almost like nothing's happening. Now, I take a little umbrage with it because I think sometimes you just gotta put
air in it.
You gotta put air in it. But on those shows, I think it's so fast. And I think that was more like an advent of practicality because the shows were always immensely long. I worked on it in season 12 and we were way long every episode. And I think I talked to people who were there earlier on and they were just like, yeah, the shows were always so long. They just had to suck all the air because nobody wanted to dump a scene. And it was just became that. And then that style really took off and it just stayed that way.
But I did notice at the beginning of Scandal, remember it was like, what? It was just so
yeah.
And then I feel like they had to slow it down because we were like having heart palpitations.
Yeah.
We were engaged, but it was the walls and so I do think it shocked us to make us watch, but then it had to adjust to where we were as an audience as well.
Yeah.
But it's true. Shonda's dialogue is so brilliant. We do want to hear as much of it as possible.
Right.
Well, there's a difference in delivery time too.
Yes.
In what way? What do you mean?
I mean that when I first was doing television, your runtime for your episode was over 50.
Oh.
And now the runtime for broadcast is 42 and some change. And the runtime for American Soul is 40 minutes. and some change.
Trying to get them advertisers in there, huh?
So it's like you could die, you could seriously die waiting for the show to start again, watching commercials. But when ER came out, the delivery time to the network was severely different than the delivery time for Grey's Anatomy.
Right.
They were further apart, and you were able to actually tell a story. I'm saying to you that a show like Law and Order, where you actually see the shoe leather, you actually are with the characters as they're learning information, and you had scenes where they talked it out. You can't do that anymore. Now you just have scenes where they talk about what they did because you don't have the time anymore. Law and Order wouldn't work today because you don't have enough time to tell the story.
But yet they're still producing Law and Order, aren't they?
SVU, but if you look
SVU.
at it, it doesn't even look anything like what it did
Right.
in the beginning. You could tell a story, you could tell permutations of the story, you could go with you could be with the family of the victim, you could actually feel the pain, you could have scenes where you're with them, you could actually tell their story. You can't tell the story anymore.
I mean, they already dumped the main title for most series just to get
That's
that little bit of
true.
extra time, you know?
Nobody has a
So
theme
hard.
song anymore. It's just into the show. So true.
Yeah.
I miss that. What about you? Shayna's really quiet over there.
Wait, what was the question?
We're talking about the rhythm. Like for me, I think that editing is at its best when there's like a musicality to the rhythm of the show.
Yeah, I like our show because we have the drama, but we also have these breaks of musical moments where, you know, the editors really get to flourish in doing montages, and especially if we can mix in the story with the performance in a montage, it works out really, really well. And that's what I like about our show. It's kind of, you know, it's got a mix of everything. But I do like black and white films myself, mostly because of the dialogue, because they really, you know, they really worked on dialogue more than what you saw, because they didn't do a lot of locations and things like that.
Right.
So and
I can watch All About Eve over and over and over again.
That's a good one. Yeah.
so like every time you watch Casablanca, you get something new out of it.
Sure.
And so, you know, my sister and I bet on 22 when we're doing roulette.
And then I also asked, what is required to be an excellent editor? I know got to have basic editing skills, but is it a director's eye? Is it a musical ear? Like, are there other things required that you innately have that make editing perfect in your eyes?
The first thing I look at in bringing in an editor is what they've worked on. If it's been a variety of things, I talk to people who they've worked with. But the main thing one of the main things I'm looking for, besides the talent to put together great footage, is the talent to put together things that aren't always there. And like I said, problem solving. And if you have somebody like Heidi who's a problem solver, that saves you so much time and so much effort, if they can make it work and make it so that the story that Judy's trying to tell, it comes out, even though we missed a few things on set.
That's clear.
And I was thinking also about music. Music's super important nowadays. It's always important. I mean, we can go back to Real World and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much wall-to-wall music. And funny bit of trivia that actually came out of it was an MTV show, and it used to be that you could use 30 seconds of any top 40 song, as long as they had a music video on MTV. They wouldn't have to pay for it because it was considered promotional. So you had to hard out 30 seconds. So people got used to these musical changes. They get bored of something really fast, and then you got to have something else in there. The sound's tired, right? And so in a lot of ways, it's bled into scripted too, that the people feel like a real hard time with not having music. You have to fight for those sometimes. Judy's good at that. You're like, you know, I think it's better with no score. We don't need any of that.
Sometimes it amplifies what's going on because we are so used to there being so much noise in our head, right? So when it's quiet, you're like, oh, I'm listening.
Yes.
I get that.
It's really interesting. It's like, I think that when you're talking about what makes a great editor, I think it's all of the above, because I'll tell you, Arthur Forney, who had the nickname of being called the Butcher of Burbank, and he's very
Heidi's laughing really hard. I can't wait to hear this.
He's very stingy with the compliments and the praise. And he once said about Shayna, because she was actually going off, I was like, I think she was going home for a nap or something. And I was like, what the hell just happened? What do you mean? And he was like, she's so good. I asked for some blood. We didn't have it. And you know what she did? She put like a tear on his face, and then she colored it. She slowed it down. She made the tear like syrup, and then she made it blood red. She's great. And she gets to have a nap. And I was like, first of all, Arthur, who runs post-production for Wolf Films. So think of all the shows from Dick Wolf, and he marches around like the general. And some of the bays are like up on they're higher than other bays down here. And he marches from bay to bay, and he'll walk in and he'll run through the show and he'll say, take 2 frames off that, take 4 frames off that. And he'll just be standing there and walking around in circles. And I'm like, first of all, what's the difference between shaving 2 frames off that or 4 frames off that? He goes, watch it afterwards and you'll see. And it feels different. But you go, it's 2 frames. It's 4 frames. It's 6 frames. It's like.
Did it feel different to you once you watched it?
Yeah. That's what makes it so awful, because you're just going, it's just a couple of frames. How is that going to make a difference? But he would go from bay to bay and do that. It was crazy. But he's stingy with the compliments. And he gave you the best one. Because I was like, what do you mean she's going home for a nap? He was like, she was up all night. I was like, what?
I love that.
You're giving her a compliment about blood on a face.
But here's the thing, Judy, not a compliment to me.
No.
About me to other people, but not to me.
No, not to you. Well, why would you think the butcher would be kind to your face?
Did you receive it, Shayna? Did you receive it, no matter how it came to you? No.
Just now.
That's not how he rolls.
Tell me about what it's like to be a female in this business. Is there a difference? Is there some sort of disparaging stuff that goes down as an editor, or does it not have a gender at all?
I noticed it more in the hiring. I was on Alias. They were one of the better ones, but
I love Alias. FYI, that was an amazing show.
Thank you. But action, it's very male dominated. Marvel, all those, they call them testosterone driven shows. I like testosterone.
And me too.
But they don't always give you a shot. A lot of times it's like this, they pigeonhole you. It's like, yeah, we really want a more, male sensibility, and we don't feel like you're going to do that. But Ken Olin was great, and he employed quite a few female editors. But most of those action series, Sasha's best. It's none of us there.
I mean, you probably check the credits of 24 and see.
Yeah.
Ding ding and mic drop. Got it.
Yeah.
But what do females bring to the table what shows are typically female heavy, are there?
Well, romances, but even if you look at the big blockbuster romances, most of those editors are male. They dominate feature films in a big way, I think.
I think Hallmark, right?
Hallmark, a Lifetime might be maybe 50-50.
Okay.
That's still not even female. They dominate, I don't think. A lot of the showrunners are women in Lifetime shows and stuff. But
Yeah, a lot of times you find people want to hire their friends, and who do they hang out with, and who do they go drinking with.
comedy is also, I think, skews a bit more male.
How did the term inclusion writer that entered the psyche a couple years ago after the Oscars, how did that sort of affect the world of editing, or did it not at all?
I think it did.
Did you hear about that, Judith?
I if you saw my face,
Yeah, I did.
it feels specious. It really feels like a lie, or like you can use it when it's convenient, but yeah.
That was what your face was saying. Yes.
Yeah, it's just like minority hires in a writer's room. Like, I was the only raisin in the oatmeal for decades. So, and trot me out like look, I have a black poodle. I have one. It's like, you can get around it by doing staff writer hires, and then you only have to have them for 20 weeks and then you send them away.
Right.
There are ways around everything, and they avail themselves of the loopholes. So
I think it goes right into what Shayna was saying, which is they sort of can check the box. You were saying something and I just blinked because my child came out the room and I'm like, go away. Shayna, what were you about to say? You were about to say something.
Me?
Or maybe it was Heidi. Heidi, you were about to say something before I jumped to Judith because of her facial expression.
I mean, for me, I was going to say, I think I see quite a few more assistants in the lower levels. I do see better diverse hires. But I still don't think it's all about the rising, isn't it? It's like, them being promoted and moving up. Minorities just don't, not at the same way everyone else does.
So how do we change that, Shayna?
Well, I was actually just thinking about that. Well, as far as editors go, we have to basically pass them. They have to get past, our producers and the network. So they need to have experience, and to get experience is really tough. And if you really want to be an editor, you have to find an editor to work for that helps you achieve that. Like, somebody like Heidi will let an assistant cut things and give them notes and talk about it and help them out. On another project we did for BET, Heidi worked so well with her assistant, she let her assistant share credit on the show that she cut. And that's the thing, is you really have to find somebody that's going to mentor you. And that's what editing used to be about, mostly, was a mentorship. And you came in and you worked with people and they showed you how to cut. You watched them cut. A lot of times assistant editors don't have time to watch their editors cut anymore. So that is an issue when there's a lot of other work for them to do. But that's the thing, mentorship. That's the only way.
Well, A, women are natural nurturers, I think. And B, super interesting, because I think women do have a sensibility and an intuitiveness that would lend very well to editing, in my opinion. So in order to get more women, are there certain schools they should go to? Should they be online, Googling how to be the best editor for women out there that do want to jump into this? Do they call you, Shayna? What do they do?
They need to, they do need to learn. They do need to learn, and right now we're in a technical age, so they to be an assistant, you really have to know the equipment and how to cut. You can learn that from your editor mostly, but you need to know the equipment really well. So if it's going to be Avid, if it's going to be Final Cut, whatever, you need to know it really, really well so that you can be that technical person. There shouldn't be anything that stops the editor from working. And if it's a technical problem, we got to get that fixed right away because we can't absorb that time that the editor needs. So they need to learn that. They can watch things that they like, as we've discussed earlier, and see how the trends are going, and then work with an editor that has that mentorship kind of mind. I mean, I've known several that have done it, and their assistants are all cutting. So
Right.
Heidi's assistant that I talked about, she's cutting.
Is there a mode of choice? Are you guys using, I mean, which was Avid, Pro Tool? I mean, which one is the hot new mode that everybody has to know how to work on? That all the shows are using?
I think Avid is still one of the leaders. So, you know, and that's what we use. I haven't really used anything other than Final Cut 7 ages ago.
Not even, oh, okay, Avid over Final Cut, all right.
You have to be ambidextrous if you want to come up too. You don't know how things are going to go down the line. And at least like you learn Final Cut because that's all the low budget stuff. And if you're trying to break in, that's where you're going to start. And then from that, maybe then Premiere became kind of the low budget replacement for Final Cut when they abandoned their multicam function. But ultimately, so far anyway, I mean, Premiere's made inroads. I pretty much say Avid's the standard, you got to know it. But I don't think it's a bad idea to know both those platforms. And Blackmagic has their own platform coming up. And I think you just have to, you can't be that person with the beehive, you know, you're going to have to make sure you keep up on all the tech because it moves fast. You never know.
So do executive producers have preferences or they just want the job to be done right?
I don't care what they use as long as I have something to watch.
That makes sense.
If you're really good, if you're already good at editing, if you've taken classes and you've cut some things for your friends, if you can find a director that trusts you, you're in.
He says if very loudly, if, but it's
Find a director that trusts you, you're in.
it seems like a lot of the great editors are working, right? So for someone like me who's creating content that needs an editor, where do I go to find a great editor? Because they're, especially women, few and far between, I find, in Los Angeles, which you'd think you would stumble and fall into another female editor, but it is not true.
You can go to the schools. You can go to the schools. There are a lot of people that are just hungry to like work, and there are some that are pretty good. And you can find out from, I have a nephew that got a master's degree at Loyola, and you know, we can go there anytime and find kids to do whatever.
I love.
And you know, Tanika, Shayna and Heidi are going to be working with AAFCA and AZETI at the upcoming Editor Fest in August. So that's going to be a great opportunity for next gen talent to come and, you know, learn from two of the best. And hopefully we can, you know, identify some of the next gen editors.
Good idea.
And hopefully a lot of them will be female.
Yeah, that's great, Gil. Thank you. People need to know that. What were you going to say, Judith?
No, I said that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't always pick up the phone and call Shayna and say, give me some names. I mean, I can, and I have done.
And Shayna delivers.
She tries.
One of the things that I know is an issue when it comes to Black content, shows like Being or Unsung, is that these are legendary stories about Black talent, but there are no Black editors that are employed in that company. So for instance, it could be anybody, the Four Tops, the Spinners, and we tell a really, but I've seen people tell really beautiful stories in the directing and in the producing, and then things are shifted because that editor may not be well versed on the Black world, the Black culture. Those are really big problems that still persist today. How do we make sure that shows that pertain to Black audiences have editors that also know the culture? Is there a way to do that? Or is there a blind spot for executive producers and directors? They just want editors who are great.
I don't know how you police that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
you can't.
No, it's the production company. Like, they hire a line producer who then, he's got relationships, and so your crew gets filled that way. I mean, I'm not really sure.
Well, that's the problem, is that if you don't have a seat at the table, and because I truly feel the editor has so much power when it comes to nuance in telling stories, that if it's a story about four singers out of the hood and the editor has no idea of that culture, then you miss so much. And I know those are only 2 reality shows, but I think that expands beyond that even, and to be able to understand the people that you're editing for, or to at least have some connection to it, I think is super important. You may not be able to police it, but is there somebody above going, I mean, I guess we're at this point in time in our culture right now where we're understanding that, I saw a SAG-AFTRA panel discussion online with Jason George and Yvette Nicole Brown and Sterling K. Brown. And they were talking about a couple years ago, they would have stunt people that they would paint down to be Black to play stunt doubles.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're still doing stuff like this in 2020. So
Well,
I think
yeah, we're still doing that, but it's across the board. It's like, think about all of your animation shows, not just The Simpsons. Every last one of them does animated blackface.
Yep. Yes.
Every last one. Rick and Morty, BoJack Horseman.
They're all releasing
Family Guy, Cleveland Show. Every last single one of them
does an animated.
That. King of the Hill.
Yeah.
The character from Laos he's a white guy.
Yeah.
But the character has a heavy accent. So you just go, this is kind of egregious, but it's been going on. The guy who voiced Cleveland, he's been voicing that character for 20 years. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, this isn't right. Really?
I know.
So it's not just
after he bought his house and sent his kids to college. Right.
I mean, it's really not just, the stunt people, because, I've watched an episode of Third Watch where I could see that they didn't get the guy's neck, and he was in blackface. He was blacked down, but he was white, being a stunt double for a Black actor, and it was egregious. And so that's been going on for a long time. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on for a long time. This is not.
But the editors can't say anything, right? You guys have to stay in your lane. That just makes it complicated, obviously.
I'll tell you that I know about 6 or 7 Black editors that have experience. And every time I reach out to them, they're working. So it's the ones that have less experience that it's hard to get them a shot on a show, especially if it's like the first or second season and you're really trying to get the show going, and you need to know that somebody can work at the pace that you have and that you're not going to be well behind when you have to replace them. So that's the thing. Because the ones that I know that I always reach out to, they're always working. I get maybe 1 or 2 of them per season.
Send me the list.
Yeah, I know. We all need the list, but we do hear that a lot from production, which is, well, there aren't any, or they're busy. The 3 that there are, they're busy, or there aren't any. We can't find them. But there's got to be something done where we can all reach out and try to include, because if they don't find that editor to mentor them, then they're asked out, right? Or they don't find somebody to give them a break, then they don't get a break, and then they can't get that experience.
There are organizations that are pushing mentorships. You know, I think probably ACE does it too.
Yeah, diversity program.
There are ways to get that mentorship. For editing, if you go to a formal school, they kind of help you out. They'll help you get those connections.
If you go to a formal school, I think a lot of people, especially with the, how far technology has come and everybody thinks they're an editor on their phone, is a lot of kids don't go to school. They don't have the money for school, but they are in their labs working on whatever, Avid program that somebody left them on their computer or gave them or gifted them. So in that case, if somebody doesn't have a proper schooling, how can they find their way into a lucky situation? Do you have any advice for those people?
Well, when I started, a lot of people didn't get college educated. They were mentored from the get-go. They worked in the mailroom, they came out and they worked here, and then they found a inn when they were delivering film and befriended somebody, and then they'd get trained and came up to the ranks. It's a long slog, but it does work. I mean, there are plenty who don't. I still think it's faster to go to school if it's an option. You'll move quicker.
There's just a lot more connections there. If you have the time and you can be a PA and work your way up, then yeah, you don't have to have any kind of skill level to be a PA, really.
Excuse me, I was a PA. I ordered lunch really well for friends.
Before you get in, because after you get in, we're like, why didn't you check the meal before you brought it?
Honey, I'm talking first season of Friends. I ordered Jennifer Aniston's Cobb salad so well. They wanted me to be a part of the producers program. Okay, you do. It requires skill, people.
Oh, I got out of college and I'm like, you want me to take out the trash? I didn't go to college for this, but we all do our time.
But that is an old school theory that we have to pay our dues. Kids aren't trying to pay their dues now. They're trying to be an editor like that. So,
and they feel because they know the equipment that makes them editors, and it doesn't. It's a start.
So there are projects you can work on in Craigslist. You just got to get more experience. You got to get more experience in that person.
There are?
She knows the details, girl.
There's stuff out there. There are things out there.
There's even like a Facebook group, I Need a Crew. It's all people doing short films and stuff. There's no money in it, but you get time.
I worked for no money for a long time. And it was fun too. Then someone said,
trying to go back. Hi, Jenny.
Hi. I have a list.
Me as an assistant.
Told
Put it in the chat. Email.
No, and that's just a tease. We are just about out of our time, but we definitely want to thank you, ladies, Judith, Shayna, and Heidi, and of course you, Tanika, for always, coming through for AAFCA. We appreciate you. But to tease the Editor Fest going on in August, you can get more of that information. You can get Jenny's list by
Jenny.
maybe by signing up. And of course, you can find the details about Editor Fest on the ACE website and on the AAFCA site next week. We'll update it. We're retooling our site, and we'll make sure to include information about it in the new with the new design.
Will it be virtual? Obviously.
Yeah, it's going to be virtual. Normally we have it in London and at Disney Studios here in Los Angeles. And this year we're calling it Edit Global. And it's going to be much bigger because we have the room for it. I'm very excited. And this was a great panel. I loved listening to it. Thank you.
Tanika, given the circumstances with COVID, it might be worth talking, how is this new reality impacting the way in which editors are going to be working moving forward? I mean, will there be any impact? Because editors obviously work very solitary.
I was gonna say they're in their dark rooms. They can
Right. But
can
will there
editors
be,
work from home?
so
Yeah.
there won't be any kind of COVID effect over their work.
Except for there's nothing to edit because no one's shooting.
Well, that's the
Well, yeah,
problem.
right.
That's
the
the
animation.
problem. I think Tyler Perry has figured it out where he has his cast just move to the ranch and they just live there during like 2 weeks quarantine. Then they shoot their show and then they leave. But at some point, we're going to run out of content, right?
I don't know that he has it so much figured out as they have to wait to see.
If they catch it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. This is not a joke. This is truly what's going to happen. That's the experiment. I think the biggest problem, here's what's going to happen. And this may in its own way be a positive. When we finally figure out how to do production will explode. It will explode all at once. And people will be scrambling for people. And the editing will start almost immediately as you get footage, because it has to, because everybody, and they don't even realize this, well, the ones with the pipeline realize they're running out of product. We have eaten it like locusts.
Yeah.
And so now everybody's they're on repeat. Mm-hmm. They're going back to watch what they've already watched, which, eventually that's going to be like, okay, I'm sick of this. I need something new. And so everybody's going to be scrambling for production space. You're going to be scrambling for locations. You're going to be scrambling for equipment. You're going to be scrambling for crew. And so as those things get eaten up, new people you will have to have trainees everywhere to support who you have. So the doors are going to have to open out of necessity. Because think about everybody going after the same things at the same time. What usually happens.
Sure. Traffic.
Yeah.
The 405.
405. Exactly.
To answer your earlier question, editors do have their own rooms, so they're already isolated if we work in an office setting, and it's just as easy to set them up at home with equipment too. And there are a lot of programs out there to where they can work with their directors, where they'll be able to see the content and not be in the same room.
Share the screens. Yeah, it's super easy to do.
Yeah, since so much stuff was done in Canada and elsewhere, that's an old tried and true workflow with remote and being far away from production.
We finished this season of post. We had already edited, but we finished the rest of the season working at home with our facilities. So yeah, everything takes a little bit longer, but yeah. And my screen's not as good as the screens at the facilities.
So editors will survive. Editors will make it through.
Yes. They have to.
Whether they're editing nothing at all or something.
Last line of defense, so they have to.
They're dependent upon the content, that's for sure.
This has been fabulous, ladies. We salute you, we celebrate you, and we certainly look forward to pulling you from out of those dark rooms and shining light on your amazing talents. It's about time.
Yeah, I want to know what's behind you, Judith. What are those notes behind?
This is a pilot that I broke, and I left this up here. The pilot's written. I left it up there to remind myself every day that I should be doing the rewrite, which hasn't been happening.
Not so much, huh?
So I might as well just take it down because it's not working, but eventually I will do the rewrite just to get it off my plate.
You did that to inspire yourself. Okay, I'm going to screenshot it and try to see what that's all about.
I mean, do we want to give out socials in case anyone wants to connect with you, ladies?
Give out who?
Heidi, you want to give out your social? You want to put it in the chat? Is that the easiest thing? Or is the chat not open?
If anyone wants to get a hold of Heidi, they can email American Cinema Editors and I will make sure to send it to her. And
Okay.
our website is americancinemaeditors.org. And in
Right.
order to get in touch with any film editor, I'd be happy to forward the information.
Nice.
Excellent words. She stated
And she has a list.
A growing list.
Cinema Editors. I'm really writing this down. .org. Got it.
AmericanCinemaEditors.org.
Perfect. Thanks, ladies. Really, really interesting. And even though you were a little shy on telling me your favorites and the ones that you hated the most, I'm going to end this by asking you, why does Bridges Over Madison County make me cry every single time?
Not-
Why?
No, you need to answer that question.
Because he closes the door.
The
Closes
door.
the door nicely.
Bawling. I've seen that movie over and over, bawling.
Her
Oh,
family
The
goes
editor
out,
for that.
slam with the door. Close the door nicely.
It's the part when she goes like,
I don't understand.
what? You don't cry, Judith?
Not at that.
Oh my God.
Terms of endearment, baby.
Oh,
Give my daughter the shot, but terms like Bridges of Madison County?
Oh my God, the love, Judith, the love. Get out the car. Are you an Aquarius, Judith?
Virgo.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, ladies. It has been an honor for me to be here. I love talking with people who are incredibly talented in their field. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you.
Sure,
We
buddy.
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Just say goodbye.
Bye, ladies.
And we out.